why do I participate in clinical research? And it's a great question because I actually think it helps whoever is interested in knees or in science understand a little bit more about the breadth of research. So my answer is going to be multi-pronged. It is influencing everything in the way I practice medicine and in the way I approach patient care and in the way I approach education. So first people think, oh, okay, we've got a question, we want to answer it. So, participation in research helps advance the field of science. So we as physicians realize how early we are in the path of science, that we're actually still in really early days of advancement. And knee reconstruction and the work we do at Banff Sport Medicine is even more so. The arthroscope has only been in clinical practice for about 50 years. And when you think of the journey of medicine, that's actually a very short period of time. And the advances have come with people asking questions about their work. So it's a very obvious question. For example, when someone tears their ACL, what is the best graft for fixing the ACL? You pose a question and you answer it. And that's kind of the fundamental thought that most people have of research. But I want to step deeper into answering why do I do research? Because once you start saying, let's question what we do, it actually sharpens the knife for everything we do. For example, when a patient goes through a program and research is being done, there's just more thorough and extensive data collection, a more thorough and systematic patient physical exam, a more thorough and systematic history. So we tend to be more comprehensive in patient care when we are doing research. And we tend to have patterns that we see when we're doing research that actually pose red flags and pose concerns that this patient care plan is behaving different than the next one. So I actually think by participating in trials, I've become a better clinician and more thorough and more comprehensive. And that goes all the way through. So once you've done your clinical exam, determined someone who needs surgery, they're a candidate to be in a research trial, it goes all the way to the next step, to the operating room. And you tend to be more systematic, more thoughtful, more problem-oriented, and more in-depth than you do when you're not asking clinical questions at the time of surgery. So I think there's a bonus there. And then in the post-operative phase, it's also a benefit to the patient and to the surgeon or clinician in having standardized follow-ups, having thorough and systematic follow-ups. And the bottom line is you become a better physician, you contribute to advancing science, and I think you give better patient care. So there's a total patient care side to participating in research. The next part comes in, well, how does that influence you as a physician? And I would say there's numerous influences. For example, people who do research tend to also read more literature, tend to also be aware of what's current, what are the current questions. So not only do you tend to be an education, get education yourself, you read more literature, but you also learn how to critically analyze the literature, how to tell a good paper from a bad paper. And so the snowball gets a little bigger. It helps patient care, helps you in the OR, helps you post-op, helps you become a better critical analysis, helps you see the spectrum of what's going on in the world. So your snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The other thing that leads to is on the education side of where you are in your life. I think research makes you become a better learner, a better reader, more aware, but I also think it makes you become a better teacher. When you are teaching residents, fellows, medical students, allied health professionals, you become more focused on what questions are they asking of themselves? What questions should they ask of me of what we're doing in the operating room? Why are you sewing that meniscus? Why are you fixing that extra ligament? What evidence do you have to support what you're doing? Then the ball even gets bigger. You start looking at healthcare systems. You start looking at provincial, national, international systems. And the only way to justify and advance medicine from an economic base is to prove that, yes, indeed, we are improving the quality of life. We are returning people to sport. We are returning people to work. We are decreasing the cost to society. And just by going and fixing something in the OR, that isn't so clear. So unless you participate in that whole research phenomenon of gathering information, critically assessing your work, you're going to have trouble, especially when economics is such a big deal in medicine now, justifying the work you do. So I actually think it's critical at an economic point of view. Then as the snowball rolls and gets bigger, you also realize there's a tremendous community in research. And that community can be local. Your involvement, Julianne, Sarah's involvement, our MOA staff involvement is part of work, and it's part of life, and it's part of lifestyle, and it's fun. But then you go to meetings and meet fellow researchers. You join multi-center trials where you're working with multiple universities and multiple doctors. And the next thing you know, you have friendships, you have connections, you have people you can reach out to ask questions and say, hey, what do you think about this? And it all has come because you participate in research. It also gives you credibility. So being involved in research, being involved in trials gives you credibility to be a teacher, to go to international meetings and present, to go to workshops and be a teacher in the field is much more feasible and relevant if you've got a research background and you present critical analysis of your work and credibility of your work. So that whole community feel of research, I think, is a great impetus to be involved. Traveling through a career as a surgeon can have multiple paths, but I would say the biggest thing that research brings is just enrichment and value to that whole path of medicine. So I've been a little long-winded. I'm quite passionate about the subject, but it's a holistic approach of how research affects my whole medical life and my whole style of practice. So that's how I answer why I am involved in research and work.